So YouTube, it's been some time since I've made content last, and I decided that I missed it and that I had some cool ideas that I wanted to share. So I decided to come back. So in this video, I want to go over what I've been doing and how I plan on making content on my channels, YouTube and Twitch, possibly something on Twitter, or well, X, formerly known as Twitter. So basically, as some of you might know, I started working at AIM Labs originally as a software engineer, and then I moved to product, and now I'm doing R&D. And I found that in R&D is what I like, and by doing R&D, I've realized that I really miss just making content where I review mice and like try to figure stuff out, figure out how you can improve and what you should be doing, and aim training, all of that. And I realized that why not do it? Why not try doing reviews like I was and gameplay, because I've been playing a lot of games, mainly the finals right now, and just come up with ways to improve that are a little more scientific now that I'm doing R&D. Also, a couple things changed. I'm now married, so my life is a lot more stable, and it's a lot easier for me to dedicate some time to content. And my job as R&D is, for me, a lot more along the lines of what I like doing. So even mentally, I feel in a much better place where I can dedicate some time to content. And I think I'm just feeling very inspired to play games and improve. So one of the things that I want to be doing is, as I said, give the reviews my own spin. And I've devised a plan of doing it, and I called it the Bard score. As some of you might know, there's a thing called the Bard pill, which is a way to practice your static aim training. And I thought it would be cool to have a Bard score for mice rating. And I want to go over what it will be, how it's structured, and how we're going to be able to review mice in a more objective way. It's not really going to be objective. It's still me testing, and there's a degree of subjectiveness built in the system. But I wanted to come up with something a little more scientific, if we want to call it that, that I can use to review mice. So I want to quickly go over the system as I've devised it. It's basically a big spreadsheet, and I might share the spreadsheet with you guys as I build it. I will probably make some type of web page where you can see the leaderboard for mice, because it spits out a number. So what I've done is basically I've picked up 6 tasks, and I'm sure this is just a V0 of the Bard score. We're gonna come up with something better, I'm sure. Like working with the community, I will get some great recommendations. But this can be used across different tasks. The idea is that I pick these tasks because, well, static click and 1W4TS, I know that I'm consistent at them, which helps a lot with what I'm trying to do, which is give a quantitative measure of score or like how good a mouse is. So I'm consistent, so I can use them to benchmark myself across different mice to some degree. Then I pick smooth build because I think, being smooth with a mouse is a big deal. And I've always said that it's an important movement in all types of games. It doesn't matter if you're playing high TTK, low TTK. I've explained that in low TTK, I still think that being smooth in the way you navigate the map is just going to make you more consistent. Then I picked Sky Switch Advanced, which is basically, I feel like it's a modern version of Vox TS to some degree. The targets are moving horizontally, and I think that's just the type of movement that you often do, like switching while still moving right after you switch. So I particularly like it. And then I picked Array Strafe Track Med and Array XY Click, which are a dynamic clicking task, and Strafe Track is a reactive tracking task. Mostly because I know that I'm not consistent at them, and I feel like it has always been, to some degree, something that has to do with the way I grip my mice, so much so that for the high scores that I did get in those types of tasks, I force myself to use a different grip. So the idea is, if I find a mouse that manages to maximize the metrics that I'm going to show you now across all of these tasks, then it must be a decent mouse, at least for me. So as you can kind of see, this is obviously more for my own usage, but I'm going to quickly go over it. The warm-up is a core part of it, because I want to make sure that the scores I get in the tasks are consistent, and therefore I need to be equally warmed up no matter what mouse I'm using. So I have defined warm-up values that I need to hit before I actually go and do the benchmark, which will spit out the Bard score. So it doesn't matter what mouse I'm using, I need to get these scores before I start the official process. And I've noted down the world records at the time of starting this whole thing, so that I have kind of like a 100 score would be getting world record in every task. Of course, it's unrealistic, but that's the point. We need to find the best mouse. The idea I will show you now. I've done it for a couple mice. I've actually tried it twice to see if it's consistent, and it seems to be so far. The idea is that I'm gonna play 10 plays with no restarts of every one of these, always in order. So I'm gonna play one play of static click, one play of one wall for target small, etc., and then loop back and do it 10 times over. So it's a long process. I cannot restart, and then I take some statistical analysis. I started with the ROGR pace because it's been the mouse that I've been maining. So as you can see, it spits out this like bunch of numbers. I do some math, and basically I come up with a peak score, an average score, and a consistency score. So peak is basically what max score did I get, because I know some mice I have used allow me to get really high peaks, but then they're not consistent, which means they're really not that good in game. Like, yes, I will get a sick flick, but if I'm not consistent, then what's the point, you know? An average score, which measures, you know, how high is my average, and then a consistency score, which is a function of, you know, the standard deviation of the task, whatever. I will share the Google Sheet if you're into numbers like I am, but basically this tells you how consistent I am in this specific task with that mouse. The average of these spits out a benchmark score, and then I have a feeding score, which is out of 10, and that's basically the subjective portion of it, which I will explain in the reviews, and I will just go over like why I gave it, you know, for example, for the hard pace, I give it an 8.5, and added together, that gives you the final BARD score. So the actual maximum potential value is 110, actually. So that's kind of the idea. All of the testing is done with the Hien Softwine Red XL. Why? Because I feel like it's kind of you know, jack of all trades type of mousepad. I have a review about it. I did recommend it as like the basic mousepad that you buy when you don't really know what type of aimer you are or what game you're gonna be maining. So I think that's good, because it won't like, it's not a mud pad. It's not gonna slow me down to a point that it will just give me forced consistency. It's also not stupidly fast where like I will just be inconsistent, but that's not a good measurement. Everything is for now done on my 540 hertz Asus monitor, but I'm using it at 500 hertz because Windows gives me problems when I use it at 540, and I don't think there's a big difference. I'm not using ULMB, and I'm always using 0.44 800 dpi, which is 37 centimeters per 360 rotation. And then, you know, as I said, I do all that, I give it a final BARD score, and then I'm going to be ranking all of the mice according to this BARD score. This is one of the things that I'm going to be doing. Now, I do want to talk about something, and there are clearly limitations to this system that I want to talk about. Let me quickly explain what I think the big limitations are. So, okay. The main problem I foresee is that this system would work well, assuming that my baseline with the tasks is really consistent. And for some of them, I think it's going to be, like static click. For others, like XY click and strafe track, I feel like I never really reached my full potential as a human in dynamic clicking and reactive tracking, because I've never done it much in general. So I think basically what's going to happen is this, you know, if you take static click and you plot like time versus score, you know, and this is now, and, you know, going like this is the future, it kind of looks like this, you know, I'm already at a kind of certain level, and I might slowly go up, you know, but it's going to be mostly flat. It's going to be mostly flat. So this is good, because it means that whatever delta I will get by improving, by playing it a lot, it's not really going to affect the result of the BARD score much. The problem is that with other tasks, it's probably going to look more like this. So this is the good area where you want to be testing, which is kind of basically exactly this for static click. This is not a good area, because then just there's going to be a recency bias. Basically, the later I test the mouse, like the more I will have improved at the task, and it's going to increase it. One thing to note is that, as you can see, it's an average of average consistency and peak. So, it's still going to value consistency, and I'm going to be posting individually all 3 values, whatever I post in the review. So we can still consider the consistency. But, as time goes on, I might have to go back to some of the earlier mice that I'm going to review and kind of redo it. So that might be a little bit of a problem. But yeah, this was the BART score method for reviewing mice. I'm going to be starting, as I said, with the ROG Harp Ace for an obvious reason that might not be so obvious, but it will become obvious once you see the review. And this is the reason. My signature is on that thing. So clearly, I'm a little biased, and I will explain everything about it. And then I already started reviewing the GPX2 because the GPX has been my main mouse for a long time, and the GPX2 is just a slightly improved version of it. I'll go over if it is an improvement or not. And then I just have so many mice and so many more mice that are, that I've ordered. I just bought a ULX and a Death Adder V3. So I have a lot of mice that I will just review. And that's the portion about reviews. Something else that I will definitely be focusing on is just guides on aiming. There's so much that I kind of give for granted, or all of us give for granted, that I think still needs to be explained, especially to kind of get people closer to the world of aim training, but clearing up some misconceptions. And I think I've learned so much by being part of Aim Labs that I think I'm in a much better spot to even clear up misconceptions in general now, because of all the stuff that I've learned, from the statistics of it all and just seeing the data. So I think that's going to help me be more informative and useful in making any type of content that has to do with training and improving at games. So on top of the reviews, I will be starting probably with a beginner guide to the finals, just because, again, it's a game that I'm enjoying the most. I think it's a great game right now, one of the most exciting releases that we've gotten recently. But then I will just go back, clearly do Counter-Strike. I mean, Counter-Strike has always been my main game. Do some Valorant, but the aiming is very similar across the two. And then we're just going to see. I'm just kind of going to take it more like the consistent approach. Just work on videos that I think might be interesting. And then we can together, like you, the community, and I, figure out what helps you the best and what we enjoy doing together. About Twitch, I'm considering how to find a potential schedule to actually stream gaming. I think that the BART score also kind of works for streaming because I can just be doing the kind of boring testing with you guys, and as we go, we can kind of see like how consistent I am, and I can just chat with you guys as I do it, so that we can figure out, how good do I perform with the mouse. Because sometimes I found that even if a mouse feels great, then you just don't end up performing with it. And I feel like as we go, figuring out if this thing I'm doing correlates with actual in-game skill might be really interesting. So that's it. I guess you can consider me to be back. Obviously, I will be going for some world records. I've already been grinding. You might see me on some of the leaderboards. And yeah, I hope we're going to have some fun. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.